You know the vibes. You're back listening to the Hoop Genius podcast, sponsored by NBA 2K22. I'm Mo Mootsie, alongside BJ Armstrong. Once again, real name,
no gimmicks. Real name, no gimmicks. Real name.
We're recording this one a little early. BJ's got some business to take care of, so we got to record this one early for you. So it's not going to be a recap of last night's games. We've got a few other issues to discuss that we didn't get a chance to talk about before. And half the press from the NBA's PR desk, the Brooklyn Nets guard Kyrie Irving has been fined $50,000 for making obscene gestures on the playing court and directing profane language towards spectator stands. It was announced today. Irving made the gestures and his comments to the spectators during the Nets 115-114 loss to the Boston Celtics on the April 17th at TD Garden. BJ, I can't say I'm surprised that they've hit him with a fine. What's your immediate reaction to this? Because we wanted to speak about this before. What's your take on this whole situation?
I believe that's the maximum that you can fine a player, I believe. For what he was fined for the obscene gestures, so forth and so on. I try to look at individual situations for what they are and not try to project what happened in one era to another. Okay, let's look at this situation. And I want to take our fans, not our fans, I want to take our listeners behind the curtain, so that we can look at the totality of really what's going on here.
Yes, and just before you do that, fining, according to your good friend Bobby Marks, fining Irving more than $50,000 would have enabled him to file a grievance. The NBA could have gone that route since there were multiple infractions during Sunday's game, but they chose not to and just limit it at $50,000, the most they could fine him without him filing an official complaint. But go ahead, BJ, take them behind the curtain.
Okay. Now, our good friend, and we should have our good friend. I'm gonna ask him to come on the show. Our good friend Adrian Wojnarowski. He made a very important observation. I think it was yesterday on his show that he does on ESPN, and he talked about it's an undertone that we all know what's going on, who participates in the league. And what you're seeing right now is it's playing itself out in real time in the games. This has nothing to do with what happened in Boston. And I'm not making excuses for anyone. I'm not making excuses for the fans and what was said. And I'm not making excuses for the players. But what I want to share with you, Mo, and I share with our listeners here, is there's an undertone now that's going on in this league. Okay. And this undertone is the effects that you're starting to see, okay, with betting and things that's going on now in professional sports. Because it's happening now in real time. And what you're seeing, Mo, is you're seeing the escalation of emotions.
Yes.
From the fans, for whatever the reasons may be. So it's even a little bit more than what it was in years past. And what you're seeing, Mo, is there is something that's bubbling that everyone kind of feels it. You see it, and you don't know where's this type of energy coming from.
Can you break this down for the fans, though? Because the gambling laws in America are different. Am I right in saying this is the first year that people can bet on the NBA just openly outside of Las Vegas?
Well, you're starting to see it more and more, and the business has come in. Yeah. Now you're seeing these companies partnering with the league.
Okay, because before in the UK, anyone can bet on anything, right? They gamble on everything. Right. But the NBA, you could only gamble in Vegas. I think that was the thing. Like, you couldn't just be at home, open the app, place a bet. I don't know. I don't gamble. I don't know anything about it. So this is the first season where people could just openly just gamble. And, you see it on the TNT show. They do the over-unders before the game starts. Chuck and Kenny predict Kyrie's going to score more than 30 points or whatever it may be. So now it's kind of just more open and out there for people.
Well, and you're starting to see it's happening in real time now. Okay. You know, Mo, we should post the take so that you can see the take, because he explains it very well. And it's something that's really happening that everyone who participates in the business kind of understands.
Here we go.
And people are losing and winning
I can play it for you right now
in real time. Yes, go ahead.
More of this in the league, nothing to do with, there's a different dynamic with Kyrie Irving in Boston. Mm-hmm. But as gambling becomes more prevalent in the arena, people gambling on almost everything that goes on with the game, and they're drinking, players, organizations, and you talk to them, they already feel it in the arena. And when people are losing money in real time and they're pointing to a player on the court that said, hey, I bet you to score more points in the second quarter than somebody else, and I lost. You're adding an element to that we're not talking as much about, but is a real factor in this league. And I think you are going to see more instances of fans being even more vitriolic toward players in this league. And it's an issue they're going to have to deal with, but it comes, I think, with the influx of gambling money that everyone's going to profit off of, both players and the league and the BRI. Yeah. But it's going to impact the way the relationship between fans and players in real time.
That was Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN talking on his show NBA Today yesterday. Now, it's interesting, the whole situation.
BJ, Mo, can I just say something, Mo? Go ahead. Wasn't that was an incredible take to me?
Yes, I think.
Because, Mo, that was 100%. No judgment here. I don't even know what to say or what to do, but Mo, that's what it is right now. Everyone feels it, everyone sees it, and it's like, now now we're like all looking around going, now what do we do?
Mm-hmm. And you know, the alcohol, the gambling, I feel like Adrian Wojnarowski and my grandma would have been great friends, because those are two principles that she stood strongly behind. But it's interesting because, you know, BJ, as your experience as a player, you heard fans talking to you, right? You know, I'm assuming that every player does. What was your interactions with the fans like? What kind of things were they saying to you? If you could just give us a little insight into that.
Well, you know,
not
Mo,
word for word, but you know, you heard things from fans and you had to keep that restraint to not go at them.
Yeah. Well, Mo, here's the thing. You heard things were said, some good, some bad, some a little indifferent. You know, Mo, I always tried to be respectful, but I also understood, especially when I was on the road, that fans, you know, listen, it comes with the territory. You know what I mean, bro? It's like, you know, Mo, I don't want to say like I didn't hear it and I didn't feel it. Some of the things you go, wow, like it's just not, it's not humane. You know, it's not how you treat people. However, you know, Mo, I took my job as a professional. Okay. And I that's just what I did. It was like, I learned very quickly why they call this professional sports. Okay.
Yeah.
There's an innocence that you play sports. And when I go watch my kids play sports, to me, that's sports. That's the one that, you know, hey, Dad, did you see me hit the ball? Or, hey, Dad, did you see me score? And that's great. You know, you tell your son or daughter, that's great. You know, it's fat. It's, you know, who cares whether you win, you know, especially watching my youngest one, you know, he's 6 and you go, who cares? You know what I mean? The other day you called me and I was going to a baseball game, right?
Yeah.
And I remember you said, man, have fun. I don't even know much about baseball, right? And I thought,
I don't know nothing.
And I thought, no, and I remember I was thinking, like, that's cool. That, you know what? Because that's what it's all about. You're just like, have fun. And I don't know why I remembered when you said that, but I thought that's cool. You know what? That Mo gets it. He gets it. Like, hey, you're just doing it for the sport. That's why we love sports. And I'm so fortunate to be able to talk about sports even as an adult. However, when you put the word professional in front of it, it changes the dynamics of sports as we recall it, as we remember it as in our youth when we participated, whether you played it in high school or in the universities there in Europe, colleges, or however far you're able to play or take it. It's very unfortunate, Mo, what's happening now. These athletes are feeling this. Okay. I remember there was a super fan for the Washington Bullets at the time. Now they're the Washington Wizards. His name was Robin Ficker. Robin was a professional fan, but he would read, somehow he would get Mo's biography and he would find out things about Mo, and he would just go down the line. And some of them were hilarious. Some of them were he crossed the line a little bit. But you know what I always remember about him? After the game, he would always say, "Good game." And there was a level of respect. And this guy was a professional fan. Some of the things he did was hilarious, right? I mean, when I tell you hilarious, right? It was great. But he always did it with a level of respect. What I'm watching, what I've seen, what I've experienced, I've also seen people disrespect, because they wouldn't just walk up to anybody randomly and say the things that they're saying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
100%.
BJ, you stink, you suck. Like, and that's why I love New York fans. Okay. I had the most respect for the New York fans. I got a quick story note. At the time, we used to travel commercially. You used to travel. Bo, from the moment we would get off the plane in New York, the fans would be booing on the plane. Okay. We go get our bags at the baggage claim. Everyone's booing. They're booing in the airport.
That's crazy.
You suck, Armstrong. You suck. You're the worst. Get out of town. Boo. The Knicks are going to crush you. Okay. We get on the bus. The guy has a New York Knicks hat on, the bus driver. We get to the hotel. The bellman, everyone there, Knicks fans. But it was a level of respect. You had to respect that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. There was a level of respect. We ride the bus to the game. We're coming into the arena, Madison Square Garden. Fans are there. Boo! You suck. Da 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 da. They're going crazy. Mo. I mean, it was pandemonium. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Mo, after the game, those same people, because they're. I mean, I think they have some of. Everyone says they have the greatest fans. There's nothing like Knicks fans though, because they just go overboard, right? They just go overboard. But after the game, no, Mo, I'm talking the guy who's been screaming at you all game. Good job, Armstrong. And I always respected that.
Man,
and Mo, to this day, you and I are going to go to New York this year for the draft.
Yeah.
To this day, Mo, you know what's the most amazing thing? Whenever I go to New York, there will be someone. Armstrong, I respect you when you played. You beat my Knicks.
Yeah.
You still suck. You suck, Armstrong. But you beat my Knicks.
I think that's...
And I respect, and I always respect Mo. I respect that.
Yeah, I think that's the same. Trash talking on the court, it is what it is. And at the end of the game, you shake hands, good game. Yeah. Trash talking from the fans. I, as a fan, personally, don't talk trash to any of the players at games before I did media when I was a fan. Mainly because my whole thing is keep the same energy. If I seen Ben Wallace walking down the road, ain't no way on God's earth I'm telling Ben Wallace.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm telling him he sucks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Mo. I honestly,
my problem with the fans though comes at there's booing and saying you suck, and then they're saying personal things that cross the line because they feel that they're protected by being a fan, and that's what I disagree with. Like, booing is part of the game. Okay, cool. Fans are going to boo, but I don't know what the fans were saying to Kyrie. I wasn't there. I couldn't hear them.
None of us were there.
And none of us know, okay? But I think that there is a level that the fans should not cross. You know, booing,
Well,
you stink, oh, you're trash, cool, whatever. But then saying personal things, offensive things to that nature, I think fans need to be self-aware enough that being in the stands is not going to save you. You know, it doesn't give you a license to just say anything that you want.
I'm gonna say this, Mo. I'm gonna say this. You know, Mo, when you play professional sports, it's an incredible gift. I mean, you're lucky to do this. But I want to say this though, Mo. You know, my whole life I've played sports. I've worked in sports, and I'm continuing to work in sports. There's been a couple of moments, Mo, that really stand out in my life with sports that's really bothered me. And I certainly realized one day that, you know what, remember playing that there was the person, BJ, who no one speaks to. And then there's the player that everyone speaks to. And I suddenly realized that if the person doesn't develop, the player has no chance.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, what I mean by that is Benjamin Armstrong is my name. That's my name.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's why I always laugh when I say real name, no gimmicks, because Benjamin Armstrong is always present, just watching all of this. But this BJ Armstrong character, because it's a character.
Yep.
Is former this NBA player, host of a podcast, agent, Okay. But Benjamin Armstrong, Mo, he's just sitting there. That's why I always laugh at when you introduce, and I introduce myself now, you know, because I'm just this crazy. Real names, no gimmicks. That's kind of my making sure that I always recognize the other person that's just sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the end, you got to know who you really are. This is not who I am. You're listening, but this is just what I do. And as an NBA player, this is, you know, this is my thing, right? You know, I played and all those things. My point being with Kyrie is, you know, here's a young man that's figuring out who he is. And I'm gonna tell you, Mo, one of the most devastating things that's ever happened to me is when I retired. I was aware of this when I was playing. But when you have kids, Mo, it really begins to affect you in a different way. And I don't know nothing about Kyrie.
Kyrie recently became a father, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure.
And Mo, and I made a conscious decision not to have kids when I was playing because I was aware of it then. But I'm gonna tell you a story, Mo, and I hope my kids don't mind me sharing this story because I'm not I kind of keep my private life private. But Kyrie reminds me now of a young father, a young dad. Suddenly you begin to see things a little different because you see it from the eyes of your children. And I'll never forget, Mo, we were getting in a car and I'm putting my kids in their baby seats in the back of the car. And I'm putting them in the back of the car. And they were very young. I mean, they couldn't have been older than like 3 or 4 years old. And I'm putting them in the back. No, he had to be older because what I'm about to say. So he had to be a little older. But anyway, I'm strapping them in the back seat.
Yeah.
And someone comes up, hey, BJ, hey, man, we loved you. Hey, man, I'm sorry to bother you. Can I get an autograph? And I stopped. I signed the autograph. Man, I appreciate it. Can I take a picture? Whatever. As I turned, this all took place in 10, 15 seconds. As I turned back around, my son is just bawling. Like, a full out, and I'm like, son, what's wrong? He was like, Dad, How come he didn't see me?
Bless him.
No, Mo. I was aware of it as a player. My son, he said that to me, Mo, and it's affected me because I felt it, but I didn't know what it was. But at that moment, I got it. He just started, he was like, Dad, how come he didn't see me? How come he didn't say hello to me? Mo, he couldn't have been, I'm going to say, Mo, he couldn't have been older than 5 years old. This is what this reminds me of. Because, Mo, when you start having kids and people start things and your kids start watching you on television, and it can get confusing. I don't know where this goes, Mo, and I'm not making an excuse, but I just remember, Mo, thinking to myself, thank goodness I never had young kids while I was playing. Because I don't know how my son or daughter or kids would have reacted if they would have seen me getting booed. I don't know how they would have reacted, and the effects of that, what we take as just sports, is on of a child. I don't know, but I remember that moment, Mo, and it made an impact on me. And watching this, it made me think of that. And I don't know anything about Kyrie. I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything, and it's none of my business. But I'm telling you, Mo, behind those uniforms, Mo, there are people.
Yes.
And that's the one thing I do know. Behind that 39-point performance and Kyrie with the handles and whatever you think of Kyrie is a person behind that uniform. And behind all of those players, your heroes and your team and all this, that's fine. That's fine to root for, and it's great and it's fun. Behind that is a person. And Mo, what you're seeing in real time now, the person step up and say, wait a minute, hold on. Because Mo, believe it or not, these players have lives.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
They have good days and bad days and all of these things. And Mo, if we continue down this path, we don't know where this is going to go. Because let me tell you something. I remember I didn't know how I was supposed to feel at that moment with my own. But I make it a point from that moment on to whenever I'm with my family is to make sure that if someone comes to me, I introduce my family as well. And and I learned that from a 4-year-old kid or however old he was at that time. Okay. So Mo, I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm just sharing with you the closest, because I was reminded of that moment. Reminded of that moment. Okay. Yeah. And that fan didn't mean any harm. You know what I'm saying? He didn't come up to me and boo me or say anything. It was just a fan and I respected that. You know what I mean? I respected that. Okay, great. Hey man, I don't know what I did, but I respect the fact that you were a Bulls fan. Yeah. So just be aware of that, Mo. And I'm just sharing that one story, Mo, because, you know, sometimes human feelings and it can get complex. Yeah. And that's one of the things I wanted to share. So I just did we can put it in context, you know? Yeah,
I just did a quick Google search. So I don't really follow the personal lives. I like focus on basketball, right? I don't care who's dating who and who's kids and whatever. I Googled Kyrie. Apparently, this is according to Google now. Kyrie has 2 children. The first one being born in 2015 and another one in 2021. And I'm not sure, but someone sent me a thing. I think he's got another one on the way or he recently had one. But anyway, as his kids get older, you know, they have a better understanding. You know, babies don't really know, but, you know, when you get 4 or 5 years old, whatever it is, they see what's happening. They see the internet, they see the television, fans booing him. So I can understand why it's affecting him. And, you know, he wants to retaliate and say what he's saying. I just think the fans have to be respectful. There's a line
just
between,
be respectful, Mo.
You know, talking trash and being disrespectful. I think there is a trash talk. There is a line there.
You know what I mean? And Mo, let me tell you something. You know, Mo, like, there's a part of me, right? Everybody that knows me knows I love to talk trash. Right? That's what you do, right? My wife knows it. My kids know it. My mom and dad know. Everybody who knows me, my friends, I love it. I love it. Okay.
Yeah,
I just like you and I, like we talk trash. It's just like fun. It's fun. You know what I mean? It's just part of it.
I hate it when people don't talk. Like, when I go and hoop, right? Even if I'm just playing pickup in the park, if the person I'm going at, I'm talking trash and they don't say anything, I'm like, come on, man. Talk. Let's say something. Like, come on.
It's like, don't take yourself so serious. You know what I mean?
I'm like, you'll talk, man.
Okay. But there are rules to it though. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
Like
unwritten rules.
Like when you're with Gary Payton.
Yeah.
That's just part of it. Gary is going to talk trash.
Yep.
When you're with Charles Oakley or you're with MJ, whoever, you know what I mean? Let's just, man, it's like I'm in my element. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, I'm with the guys that's here. But you know what? It's respectful. You know what I mean? Now, Mo, we've gone beyond the line now, and you're going, you wouldn't say that to me if we were X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? You don't really, like, Mo, you don't say things to people you don't know. You know, there's rules to it, though. You know what I'm saying, Mo? Like,
it's
before
context.
You start talking trash, before you start talking trash, understand the rules of engagement. Understand the rules. Because it's like, Mo, it's fun. Like, my wife was like, why do you guys talk to each other like that? Do you really like each other? Yeah, I love them. They love me. But that's just what we do. You know what I mean? There's nothing like playing golf or playing, and you're just talking trash the whole time. And my wife's like, you guys got to stop it. You know what I mean? Like, I love talking trash to my son. You're like, we're talking trash, watching the game. And now my daughter is getting into it. And then, my wife was like, you can't do that because our youngest son, it's so much fun to us, right? You know what I mean? But listening to the interaction now is like, she might be right now. My wife might be right. Okay. And Mo, this was in 2019. This gives me another story. So I wanted to take our youngest. So he had to be 4 years old, 3 or 4 years old. I wanted to take our youngest. Mo, that's a big thing, right? You don't have any kids yet, but it's a big thing. You want to take your son or your daughter to their first game, right? It's kind of like one of those moments, right?
Yeah.
It's like one of those moments where, you take photos and then hopefully 20 years later, you'll be like, oh, this was our first Laker game, right? That was his first game. My first game was a Detroit Pistons. His first game was a Laker game, right? And we were at the Staples Center, and the dad, mom, we got the popcorn. We're doing the whole thing, and a little skirmish broke out during the game. Well, we're fairly close to the
to the court,
to the court. Okay, Mo, and you've been at many games like myself.
Yep.
Let's just say, we can't repeat on air what's really being said. Okay, let's just say that, Mo. Let's just say that.
It is what it is.
What Mo, listen, it is what it is. But you know what, Mo? You know what really? Because, once you get married, Mo, you realize you can't ever be right anymore, right? So I'm never right in my house, right? But everyone will understand this one, Mo. I suddenly realized, and I apologize to everyone listening, how I used to talk when I played. Because I realized with my youngest, I don't know, it never occurred to me with the other two that I got to watch what I say. And Mo, my wife said, listen, she says, you know what? She says, BJ, I'm so happy we came to the game. She said it in such a nice way. She was sweet. It was like I remember it was a Sunday afternoon game. I remember it because we wanted to go to afternoon game. It was like 11 or 12 o'clock out here in LA. She said, but we can't keep sitting here and listening to all of this on the court. And my wife
can take some headphones for the kid.
Yeah. And I started to listen to what was being said out there. And I was like, no, I can't sit here and bring a 4-year-old and sit this close to the court and listen to what was being said, Mo. Like it never occurred to me, Mo. It's just like I don't know how I got here, shared this story, Well, what I'm saying though, Mo, is my mom used to call me Mo if she thought I was cursing on television.
Oh, she was just reading the lips. Like she was just
She was
watching your
reading the
mouth,
lips.
seeing what you were saying.
My mom did not care about winning and losing.
It's just manners. Just manners.
My mom called me. This is a true story. My mom called me in the NBA Finals. Kevin Johnson and I got in it was nothing. Everybody pushes and then you break it up or whatever. Soon as the game was over, my mom called me. What's going on? What are you doing? I was like, oh, Mom, we just won. The NBA, we're in the finals. She's like, no, I saw you cursing on television. And proceeds, Mo, to give me like a 5-minute lecture.
That's such a mom thing.
Yeah. She didn't call to say good game, or she was like, what are you doing? Like, people are watching. I didn't raise you to da 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 da. And I was like, no, and I was like, but there's no buts. It's unacceptable. So, I remember then. So now, Mo, I don't know what the solution is here, but I've had these moments. I've had these moments as a parent. I've had these moments as a player. And I just hope, Mo, that we can come to an understanding of respect.
Yeah,
because
100%.
Mo, that's what it's going to take, and it's respect amongst the fans and the players, and hopefully we can figure this out.
My take on it is, as I said before, the fans need to not cross the line. Boo, you're trash, whatever you want, but then saying those personal things, cursing these guys out, I don't think you should be doing that. But then also for the players, I think I see KD talking to people in the crowd sometimes. He'll say a thing or two here to a fan, but he's talking trash with the fans, right? He's telling the fan, oh, your favorite player can't guard me. Yeah, hold that. You know what I'm saying? Like he's talking to them too. But I think the Kyrie thing was the hand gestures. That was the thing, because the talking, unless you're sitting by the court, you're not going to hear that. The hand gestures, with all the cameras in the world, everyone sees that now. And it's all over Instagram. It's all over social media. I don't know what you're going to achieve with the hand gestures. Well,
I don't know what he's going to achieve. But I want to say this. I don't want to take away from the incredible individual performance.
100%. 39.
And that's what, Mo, makes me, this what gets me upset, is because we're talking about everything else besides this,
Yep. And this is the first episode, I think, where we've not really spoke about the basketball. You know what I'm saying? And it was one of the best playoff games I've seen in a very long time. No, that should be the headline. Like that should be not waking up the next day and the whole of my Instagram is feed filled with, oh, look at Kyrie Irving doing this. Oh, look at this fan in the tunnel saying this to Kyrie Irving. Like, if you want to talk about Kyrie Irving, I want to talk about his pull-up game, threes, mid-range, layups, dishing to his teammates, and taking the loss to the best franchise in the history of the world, the Boston Celtics. That's what I want to be talking about. I don't want to be talking about this, but I think it's important to address, and I think it's good that you share your stories as well with your experience as a player. Did you ever go back at any fans in your career? Did you ever go back at any fans, though?
Well, Mo, you hear me talk about Detroit a lot, and you're probably like, man, this guy always talks about Detroit. You know what?
I love it. That's where you're from. That's your DNA.
Yeah, I have to represent where I'm from, and I love the place where I'm from. I love Detroit. And Mo, I grew up in a place where, Mo, it was, to me, it just seemed normal. I grew up in the city of Detroit. So I didn't know, at the time growing up there, you couldn't tell me it was the hood or whatever. I grew up, and
that's all you know.
That's what I knew.
When you're in it, that's all you know.
And Mo, I loved it. Like, that was, you know what I mean? Now I can tell you, oh, it was, but back then, Mo, I didn't know.
Yeah, because you don't know. You don't know any different. When you're growing up, and you're a kid, that's
all I knew was that was my neighborhood, that was my city, and those were my people, and they treated us with respect. We treated other people with respect, And it was a community. That's what I knew. You know, Mo, where I'm from, as long as they don't put their hands on you, Mo, we good. Now, that's the rule. Mo,
I hear him.
That's where I'm from. Like, Mo, like, people gonna say things, people can talk. As long as they don't put their hands on me, we good. We good. And I'm gonna treat you with respect. Just because you acting that way, Mo, I don't mean I gotta act that way. Because I get what I'm here for. Mo, I grew up wanting to be a professional athlete. And with that came what came with it.
Yeah.
Now, if you put your hands on me, Mo, all of a sudden now that changes the dynamics of the relationship. Because that's how I grew up. You know what I mean? Like, Mo, I've played in some very hostile environments.
Yep. And
okay.
With all due respect, I think back then was a little bit more hostile than it is today.
Yeah. Mo, I've played in some very hostile environments growing up. But there was always understood. You can talk, you can go crazy, you can say whatever you want to say. As long as you don't put your hands on me or my team, my teammates, we're good. And Mo, and I'm telling you, it's extreme. And I know I need to rehash it.
Mm-hmm.
However, Mo, you know, I get it. Things change over time, and you know, things are in a different era and all those things. So that's how I grew up, Mo, and it worked for me. People said things to me, Mo, that, hey, I'm not saying I condone that type of behavior, but it is what it is, Mo. It is what it is, right?
It is what it
you know
is.
what I mean? You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
My dad used to say, now I'm sounding like my parents, you know, hey, if you hear it for the first time outside of this house, then I'm not doing my job. Okay. So when I heard something, I always kind of refer back to that. You know what I mean? And Dad would always tell us kids, as long as they don't put their hand on you.
Okay.
You know, we can now that's my generation. This generation, Bo, I think it's a little third. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have Twitter. I didn't have TikTok. So I don't know, Mo. Honestly, I don't know. And my wife constantly reminds me, BJ, don't forget, we are raising children in a world you and I don't know anything about.
Hey, man, listen, Uncle Mo's here for them. Don't worry about that.
Okay, yeah. So I got to call Uncle Mo to say, is it appropriate for my kids to be on Twitter at all? That's just what I'm saying. Mo, I didn't grow up with this.
I feel you.
You know, I didn't grow up with a PC. Okay, Mo. I didn't grow up with a cell phone. Okay. You know, that came later for me, Mo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is what it is, Mo. I'm looking, but what I do know is that we got to figure out how to respect one another.
100%.
Now,
100%.
I don't know what the answer is.
It is a privilege for fans to be at these games. It wasn't too long ago.
It's a privilege to be playing in front of these fans.
100%. But just think, last year, the year before, we were having games in empty arenas because of the pandemic. And we're all talking about how much you miss the fans, So now that the fans are back, you know, let's make sure it stays that way. And basketball is unique, especially the NBA is unique in that the proximity that fans get to the players. You don't sit courtside at a Premier League game or an NFL game or an Olympic event. You don't sit courtside to those things. That's what makes basketball so special, right? But that is a privilege for the fans. So, you know, that's my take on it. But BJ, I appreciate you sharing the stories. And that's some great advice in there. Parenthood.
I don't know if it's great advice, Mo. It's just, you know, it's funny when you see things, Mo. I always have recall, like, you know, like you see things and I'll forget things, and all of a sudden, as crazy as that sounds, that's what I saw Kyrie, that's what it reminded me of. I mean, I don't know why, Mo. Like, what a wild thing to recall. Like, in that moment, that's what reminded me of, like, man, thank goodness I didn't have kids. Because, Mo, when you're a new parent, you begin to love something you probably never loved as much. You know what I mean? Like, when you have a child, Mo, that's a different type of experience. And you know, Mo, that's a tough one. Your kids watching you play, you know what I mean? And you're trying to do the best you can. You know, you live with some things you like about yourself, some things you're trying to work on to improve yourself. And that's a hard thing, Mo, to see, because you know his kids are watching him play. You know his kids are.
Yeah.
You know, you know what I mean? If he, you know, so. But hey, I appreciate you listening to Mo.
Hey, man, we appreciate everyone at home listening too. We appreciate you sharing the stories and the wisdom. And hopefully we have a great rest of the series. And, you know, there's no escalation between any of the fans, any of the players.
Can we get back to the game, Mo? Can we get back to the game and all this other stuff?
I'm dying to talk about the game. I can't wait to see some of these games tonight. Game 2, Boston, Brooklyn. Man, I am so excited. So until next time, we'll be back discussing basketball. BJ, thank you once again for being here and sharing us with all those stories and all that wisdom. But until next time, my people, make sure you subscribe and get buckets.